I just can't believe that I've had such a career so young. Like it started at 19, getting almost famous. And I've been working like that, and I'm still working. You know, it's like crazy and not normal. And I feel that when I hear it. I'm like, oh, God, I feel so lucky.
Hello and welcome to My Hollywood Story. I am Stacey Wilson-Hunt. My guest today is the Oscar-nominated and Golden Globe-winning actor and singer, Kate Hudson, who is the star and producer of Netflix's hit comedy Running Point. Amazingly, after 15 years in Hollywood, I'd never met nor interviewed Kate before our chat. I was very struck by her humor, introspection, and warm recollections of a career kickstarted 25 years ago by a breakout turn in Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous. Throughout our conversation, which took place in front of a live audience at Neue House Hollywood, Kate shares intimate memories from working with icons such as the late Robert Altman and Gena Rowlands, and also how she once received love letters from Daniel Day-Lewis, in character of course, on the set of 9. She also tells me what a thrill it's been to make her first TV series with Mindy Kaling, and why releasing her debut album Glorious may be her proudest achievement yet. My Hollywood Story is sponsored by Mattel Films and recorded at Neue House Hollywood. If you like what you hear, give us a follow, leave a review, and let us know what you think. Please welcome my special guest, Kate Hudson.
Hello.
Welcome, Kate.
Thank you for having me.
And your matcha tea with you.
Yeah, I gotta squeeze it in.
The important things. Congratulations, not only on Running Point on Netflix, an instant hit, and you already have a season 2 on the way. Yes, okay. Congratulations. But I also want to say congratulations on your debut album, Glorious.
It's been a great year for that, and for Running Point. I mean, this has been a amazing year.
Intersection of a lot of your passions.
Yeah,
which is really special.
Yes.
So we will get to both of those, of course. But first, we need to go back to the beginning of your story. Ooh. Yes. Which takes place
Cedars-Sinai.
Yes. Well, that was my first question. Where were you born in Los Angeles?
I mean, Cedars-Sinai on April 19th, 1979.
A special day for your parents, obviously. Yeah. And where was your first home in the city? I know you changed locations a little bit during your childhood, but where did you first live in LA?
I was brought home to the house I bought back. So I actually live in the house that I was brought home to.
Really?
In the Pacific Palisades.
Aww.
And now everybody goes, oh. Yes, it's a big
oh,
but it's still there. Yeah, thank goodness. So I grew up in the Palisades, but then we moved to Colorado pretty early, like around 3 years old. Then I moved to Colorado and was there for my formative years.
Okay.
But I mean, honestly, when you grow up with parents who work in this business and travel in this business, you kind of, it's like being in the army.
You're itinerant.
Yeah, you're in different places all the time, right. And I had a lot of tutors and stuff like that.
On the go.
Very
much on the go. And for those who may not know, who are your parents? Just again, I never want to assume any knowledge.
My mother is Goldie Hawn, the legendary Goldie Hawn. My father is Bill Hudson, from a musician, and my stepdad, who raised me, is Kurt Russell. So
lucky girl.
Lucky girl. I feel that way every day. I didn't always feel that way when I was a teenager.
Well, none of us like our parents.
But the individuating years.
On that topic, what is your earliest memory or cognizance that you were being raised by artists?
I mean, I almost don't think they're different because they're artists. They're just nuts. But so it was always even in school, my parents' energy was just very different than other parents' energy, and it wasn't how they were being perceived. I think it's just their personalities. That's such an interesting question because I don't remember the moment, but I do know that I never knew anything other than what I wanted to do, which was to perform. It had nothing to do with my parents. But before maybe I even knew what they did or understood what they did, I just wanted to be singing, dancing on a stage, performing. There was something that happened, when I would start performing. And so my desire to perform kind of had nothing to do with understanding what they did. And then as I got older and I started spending more time on movie sets, because movie sets are bizarre, as many know. It's like it's not really performance oriented.
It's a lot of waiting around.
It's a lot waiting around, but it's quite boring. I would say that maybe I always knew. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe when my mom and my dad really got together, and we started.
What year was that?
That was I was about 3.
Okay.
But really, when I was about 6, like after a couple of years, like that was probably the time where I was like, there's a lot of attention around this, like at airports. Or like if we go out to a restaurant, like there'd be paparazzi, and you start to kind of understand what it is, because it feels very intrusive as a kid. You don't really get it. Yeah, it's very weird. Until your parents like, it's fine. You just keep going, just do your life, and then you just start smiling, and you're like, okay, You don't really understand.
You have to have a smile on your face.
You don't really get it, but then you do. The thing that's different, I think, that from the inside versus like the outside looking in, is that you're really with just a family of storytellers. Like I when you talk about character, you talk about film, or you see your parents going through a script and they're talking about it with, I've got to witness them. Like I remember Bob Town sitting in our living room with my dad, and they were going over a script and listening to them talk about character situation.
This is the late Robert Town, the screenwriter.
Yes. And like that's what I grew up. I grew up with more of like what makes a great story, and why do we make them, and not like the other stuff you don't really think about, It's like, do you love telling stories? And so it makes sense that that's kind of what we all entered into as a family. Like we're all in it,
Right.
Except my other Boston, but.
Right. And I've spoken to Laura Dern about this, a very similar situation, about her most formative moment as a young person on set. And she, of course, had an amazing story, which was playing an extra in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, as her mother was directed by Martin Scorsese.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
She
really played like little girl with an ice cream cone or something like that. Did you have a moment or an opportunity on set to actually be part of a scene that one of your parents was in, and then you felt, oh, this is a job and I love this job?
Well, I begged, and my parents were like, no. Right?
Were they trying to shield you during this time?
Well, not yet, but I remember being on the set of Wildcats, and my mom had a daughter, and we were around the same age. She was a little bit older.
This was the football movie.
The football movie,
right.
That's right. Football, that one. With like Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes, and it was the greatest cast, and it'd be like a 7-year-old girl with all these like fun young boys. I'll never forget it.
Your mom looked like she was having fun in that movie.
It was a blast, and Chicago was good to us, and it was like, I'll never forget that experience. But I remember she finally let me be like, she was like, okay, fine, you can go be her stand-in. And so like I would stand in for her daughter, which was,
did you tell her,
which
like,
I loved.
I'm actually her daughter, I'm the real daughter?
Which I actually loved. I sat there for hours and I loved it. But because I loved I loved watching the camera department. That was always my favorite. That was the thing I was most intrigued by, was the camera department. And so being a stand-in, that was like, I remember sitting there at 7 years old going like, oh wow, so he's gonna put the light over there. I wonder why he's doing that. And I just loved it. And so, but performance-wise, I was 11 years old, and I like declared it. It was a declaration. It was like, I am an actress. I'm gonna be an actress. And my parents were like, this was not news to them. They were way ahead of me. And my mom let me audition for something. She's like, in her mind, it was like, let's get it out of her system. So I auditioned for this Howie Mandel sitcom. And I ended up getting the part, which I didn't know, but I got the part, and my mom said, absolutely not. No, she's not doing that.
And how old were you? You were at 11.
I was 11. Okay. And she said to me, I remember, she goes, so you did great. They loved you. They're going to go with someone else. But this is part of the business. This is what it is, and you go in, you audition a lot, and it's hard work. And I was like, yeah, great. And I never thought about it after that until I was about 16. Like auditioning, It's like I kind of got that out of my system. And then I remember my mom saying, this is a craft. Like, it's not I know you're excited by it, but you go perfect your craft. Like go to theater school and go to your dance classes and sing and dance and do it all. And it embodies more than just you auditioning for something. And so that's what happened to me. So in my mind, then I just became completely immersed in all of the things that those of us who love performance do.
Did you take special classes with an acting teacher?
I did. I worked with, well, that was later. I worked with Milton Katselas, who I loved. I was in his master class, and I learned a lot from him.
What did you learn that has stuck with you from him?
I liked how practical Milton was. You know, he was like, we're not here this isn't for therapy. And I liked that about him. And I liked he had this thing, I forget what it's called. It was like cutthroat theater or something like that. And his thing was like, what's your purpose of doing this? If you want to work in this business, go to work. Lean into the things you're good in, you know, and keep working and work hard and focus on actually getting the work. And try to understand why you're not, you know. And I thought I liked sort of his entrepreneurial side of being an actor, on top of the difference between when you're using what you have and when you're accessing what you have, but you are completely engaged in being in that character. Two different things. And I saw some fucking amazing work in that class. And he was very helpful to me for many things. Like I would go, you know, for auditions, and he would work with me on auditions and things like that. And I just loved him. He also, I liked that he was like, what are you doing here? He'd sit there and be like, why are you here? Tell me why you're here. What do you want out of this? You know? And you could see the difference between people who would eventually be able to really do this as a career, and those who were trying to get something out of it.
And really, what is the reason you're there?
Yeah.
Fame, money,
yeah.
And those reasons, I'm assuming, are not the good reasons.
They're the worst possible reasons to get into this business. You know, it's like Kurt said the same thing to me when I was really young. He's like, why do you want to do this? If I told you you'd only ever do community theater, I'm like, well, then I'm in community theater. I'm like, I'm hoping I won't just do community theater, but like, then that's what I will never not do
so
it.
Your parents
I don't
were
know.
really good about being very detailed with you about what this life is like.
Yes, they're very stoic.
I'd like to say a very special thank you to Neuhaus for being the exclusive venue partner of My Hollywood Story. Neuhaus is a gorgeous private work and social space for creators, innovators, and thought leaders to connect in Los Angeles and New York. As a Neuhaus member myself, I can tell you firsthand how amazing it is to work inside such iconic, beautifully designed buildings, while also enjoying elevated hospitality and thought-provoking cultural experiences. To me, Neuhaus has completely redefined the ideal environment for creative potential and progress. To learn more and apply for membership, visit neuhaus.com.
And tell me about Oliver during this time. if you keep track of Kate at all,
Oliver.
in her social channels, she and her brother Oliver have a very special relationship. He's one of the funniest people in social media, which is saying a lot. But tell me where he fit into your dynamic growing up.
Well, he was an awful brother. I mean, like really, like so mean, so abusive, awful.
Maybe that's why he's so sweet to you now. He's making up
for it. No, yeah, Oliver was incredibly sensitive, and I've always kind of felt like an older sister to him, even when we were really young, because super sensitive, things like really affect him big. Like he's an empath, and it just always feels like Oliver's always got this like the world on his shoulders, even though he's hilarious and goofy and nuts. So I've always been incredibly protective of him. And he has not been protective of me at all until he got older and he went to college. And then when he came back from college, it was like our entire relationship changed. And we're close enough in age to where our experience has been so similar. And and he's one of the smartest, brightest, most beautiful writers I've ever known. And he's just, and I can't stand it because I'm like, you need to be writing. And his ADD just won't let him do it. Like, it's just, he struggles. And, yeah, he and I have been through a lot together, and we continue to like share that on our podcast, Sibling Revelry, and we have so much fun doing it. It's
we can tell. It's sweet to see older siblings still be close, because as we know, that's not always the case.
No, and it's sad when you see that, but also, we are born into this world like without, we have no choice, and sometimes you do have to break
work really hard to maintain.
Yeah.
Right. So after you had sort of had some experience under your belt, did you continue to audition regularly? Because I also remember seeing you in Party of Five.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how you got that role. Was that through a straight up audition process, or was that something where, we've seen her in this, she might be good for this?
So so my dad was gonna film Escape from LA, and they couldn't find the girl that was supposed to be in it. Or
this was the
sequel to Escape from New York. And I remember I was going to school. I was 16 at the time, and Pa came downstairs, and he was like looking at these things and the girls and the tapes, and he was like, he looked at me, and I was making my breakfast, and he was like, "You want to audition for this?" And I was like, "Yes." "What do you mean?" I was like, "I can't find the girl. Do you want to audition?" I was like, "Yes. Yes, I do." And so he's like,
"First
"Great."
time he'd asked you directly to audition?
Completely. It goes against every bone in his body. But it was like, "Do you want to do this?" And so I was like, "Yes." So I went in like the next day, and I worked my butt off, and I was like, "Okay." And I went in with my dad. It was so much fun. Kurt Russell's a pretty cool actor. And I was like, and I got the part. And then I sat with my parents, and I was like, okay, I don't know. At the time, the world was so different. And I was like, if I do this, then this will always be the first job that I got. And
you'll get it because your parents
because it's because of you, and that's what they'll think. And I don't want to do that. And my dad was just like, yeah, all right, go for it.
He was proud of you, but sad.
Very proud. Yeah. But that started, then the tape got out through an agency, and then they called me and said, we'd like to be her agent. And so I got an agent from that tape.
And what was it like to do Party of Five? Were you a fan?
So fun.
Were you a fan at the time?
Huge. I couldn't believe it.
In case people don't remember, you played a woman named Corey, who may or may not be trying to steal Julia's boyfriend.
That's right. That's right.
I encourage you to rewatch, because you're a little wily in this character. So
I really was. I was very ready to hang out with Nev's boyfriend.
Now, when you're on a set like that, how aware were your castmates of who you were and your family? Was that something that you tried to kind of keep private?
I don't think anybody knew.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No.
And not that you're hiding it.
It was great. My last name was Hudson, so right. Most of the time people had no idea.
So there's kind of a gift to kind of being able to be anonymous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember when someone really early on was like, you should change your name, and I was like, nope, no way. You were able to really solidify your own place in the business. Yeah. Well, yeah. I tried. I really tried. I do believe that there, audition wise, when you're going in and there's studio heads and people who do know, like, that they're my parents, like, I felt a little bit like I had to be way more prepared. Like, in my mind, it was like, it felt like I was a little bit under a microscope. And so, I really always wanted to do good, obviously. And on your own terms. Yeah.
This episode of My Hollywood Story is brought to you by the new Starz drama series, Outlander, Blood of My Blood. An epic tale of love, legacy, and longing, this highly anticipated prequel series premieres on Friday, August 8th on the Starz app.
So I recently had Niecy Nash Betts on the show, and we talked about Robert Altman.
Oh.
And you yourself had an experience with Robert Altman on Dr. T and the Women.
I was just with Laura Dern.
Yes, I was about to say you got to act opposite Laura Dern and Farrah Fawcett. What an incredible cast.
Oh my God, we were like, it was like first of all, Laura Dern is so amazing. And I was 19. And improv was my thing, right? Like in high school, and I got into NYU because of improv. Like I loved improv. Like give me something, give me somewhere to go or somewhere to. The muscle is not as good as it was, but like
you have to keep working it.
Yeah, give me somewhere to go. You sort of do like put me on my feet.
For those who don't remember, Robert Altman, very like open, giant cast, sprawling conversations, overlapping dialogue, almost chaos if you're not used to the model of the way he told the story.
An absolute improv, no script. You know, you go like, you know, you're going to A to Z. He gives you sort of what you need to get across. And it was really interesting to watch the actors that thrive in that environment and those who are like a chicken with their head cut off. Like,
that's very disarming, I imagine.
What do I do?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's fun too. It's like, just let go, you know? But I remember Allman, we used to play this. I loved him so much. That man was so amazing and so lovely, and loved his actors and cast you because he believed in you and really let you, you know, I said, well, what is this for you? You know, I remember sitting in his office and we used to play this game that he played with tarot cards. And I remember him saying, you know, look, I look at it like this. Like, I have a canvas. I know what story I'm trying to put on the canvas. I have in my mind an idea of what that canvas is going to look like. But I got to choose my colors. You know, I choose my pink, I choose my yellow, I choose my brown. And when I see those colors go onto the canvas, I can't believe how beautiful the painting becomes. And I was like, that's the most beautiful thing. I was like, what's my color? He's like, you're yellow. I was like, yes, I'll take yellow. But
isn't it interesting how rare, and he's so singular even to today. I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson, certainly we see shades of Altman in a lot of his work. But he still remains to this day the only director I can think of who really has allowed his actors or allowed his artists to just be with untethered direction.
Yeah, I've never worked with anyone like that. I never will again, obviously. You know, when you know, like, you make someone chuckle, like I just made him chuckle. Like that was like all I ever wanted to do was make him like a little like. I was like, oh my God, I made Robert Altman.
That was a good day at work.
Yeah.
So in the same year, a movie called Almost Famous was released.
Yeah.
25 years ago.
So crazy.
Hard to imagine. And I know you've probably talked more about this movie than anything you've ever worked on.
And I will probably forever.
And you will probably forever. You earned an Academy Award nomination for this movie.
Yeah.
And you won the Golden Globe for your portrayal of Penny Lane. And your face was on the poster.
It was on the poster.
How did it feel, first of all, to see the key art with your face?
Surreal. Like disassociated. Like I was like, that is not me. Yeah, it was surreal. It was amazing. It made me wonder why I was like, why is my face on the poster?
Did you know about that, or was it a surprise?
I mean, I did not know. No, of course, but I remember being like told, you know, and it was like I mean, obviously that was a big deal. It was a big cast, you know.
Huge.
And And
when was the first time you met Cameron to talk about this movie?
Well, like any other audition, you know, I've been auditioning and I've been getting a lot of parts. I actually turned a lot of parts down, which I feel okay saying now. I used to never want to talk about it, but when I was really young, there was this like sort of trend of these sort of high school movies that were happening, and I'd get a lot of them.
Ton in the late 90s.
Yeah, and
I can't hardly wait, these large sprawling casts with like 25 kids in them.
Yeah, and I loved it, you know, and I felt, I remember one casting director who I love, who will remain nameless, she's like, you really need to say yes. And I remember thinking like, I just don't feel like I was so young, and I was like, I just want that thing that I'm like, yeah, yes, please, yes. You know, I want to work with the directors.
So you were more selective about who was telling the story. That was more important to you, that the artist's vision, as opposed to how large your role was.
Yeah, yes, I'd rather go do a small movie in Ireland that I felt was like with a really interesting writer and director, than do like a big movie where I'm one person in this big like you know what I mean? Like I remember even like 200 Cigarettes, like it was such a cool script. And, you know, so I had been getting these parts, but then there was a lot that I was kind of saying, oh, no. I was 20. I got shot out of high school. I was supposed to go to NYU. I said, Mom, give me a year. And I just auditioned like crazy. I worked my butt off auditioning. And it was work, and I was getting parts. I just didn't want to make any moves that felt like I was, you know what I mean? I don't know.
That would restrict you in some way.
Yeah, I guess. Right. And with Almost Famous, I went in to audition for the sister. So the Zooey Deschanel part was the part that I got. At the time, it was Sarah Polley and Brad Pitt, who were Russell Hammond and Penny
That's a
Lane.
very different movie.
Very different movie.
Wow.
And I was going to be the Zooey Deschanel part. And then it started to, everyone fell out. And I remember Cameron calling me. He's like, please don't leave me. And I was like, no way. And at the time, I'd gotten a really big part in one of the, I think it was a really big, one of those big teenage, you know, and it was actually a good one. And I had to weigh, like, do I go star in this movie or do I play the sister with Cameron Crowe? It was like, it wasn't even like, I was like, and I was getting pushed towards something else. And I was like, no, I'm not leaving. Cameron Crowe's my hero. Like, I'm not. I don't care I don't care if it's a little smaller part. Then Sarah Polley dropped out and I was like, please let me audition for Penny Lane. And he was hesitant, very hesitant, and then he did, and then I had to audition like 1,000 times, and then finally Gail Levin, the great casting director, was like, Cameron, you cannot put her through another audition. Like, she is your Penny Lane, and and that's.
And what was the first thing he wanted you to listen to or read about or study in preparation to play?
Great question.
Thanks, Kate.
Not too many people ask me this. He gave me an amazing mixtape, and I love music, obviously. He really knew how much I loved music, but I had never gotten invested in like bootlegs or you know, things that were not to be sold or so he sent me all this amazing music.
Imagine getting a mixtape from Cameron Crowe. That's like
my
dream.
I can. That changed my life. Completely changed my life musically and just as like my career, you know. But for music, it was like he just like blew that world open for me. And as someone who didn't grow up with like parents who really listened to a lot of music, there was a lot of imagery, lot of like 70s imagery, on the road imagery, Band-Aid, you know, we call them Band-Aids. I don't know if you remember that. And like looking at, you know, a lot of the sort of wives, girlfriends of rock stars.
Like old Rolling Stone issues and stuff like that.
Definitely like visuals and pictures and music. Joni Mitchell was a big musical connection for me during that movie. Like River for me was throughout, you know, that song was just throughout the whole experience. And a lot of Bob Dylan. For, you know, these were things that inspired me. A lot of Bruce, a lot of young Bruce.
This is Springsteen, I'm assuming.
Yes. Is there another Bruce?
Not in my mind. Not in my mind.
Yeah, and I remember there was this painting of a woman with a teacup, and her eyes over the teacup, eyes looking over the teacup, and he's like, I don't know, this is just like Penny Lane to me. And I remember I'd had it in my trailer, and I'd stared at it every day, and I was like, I get what he's saying. I get what he's saying about that. And then we had this one moment where I actually got to do the teacup, and he's like, I think we could do the teacup thing here. That was one of the great creative artistic experiences of my life. And it was like also indulgent because we don't really get to make movies like that anymore. You know, it was, you know, not on time, not on budget. And we had so much fun spending the other people's money.
And a major studio.
Yeah.
Not a streamer. I mean, this is really
it was really
last vestiges of a great era.
And great crazy cast and wild fun times. It was great.
I think we need a whole oral history of Almost Famous, an entire book. So prepping for today, I was reading essays about Almost Famous that have been written since then or even upon anniversaries. And I found a number of them were critical of the character.
Of Penny Lane?
Of Penny, and critical of Cameron's writing of her. And they called her, quote, manic pixie dream girl trope.
Oh.
Which it was like, that's harsh.
Very Gen Z.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was my first thought as well. But it's so funny, and we're all of different ages.
I'm raising them, I know.
And certainly younger people perceive a lot of art from other eras through very different eyes, and that's their right to do that. But I'd wondered if you had ever heard of that criticism of the character, and also Cameron has had to defend her and say, I've known people like her. She is an amalgam of personalities. But when you hear that, does that resonate at all? Like, do you see any of that, or does it feel absurd as it did to me?
I think everyone's entitled to their opinion. And that's all it is. I don't agree. But I appreciate that something powerful can make people feel different ways, and that's why we make art. I don't believe in censorship, even if you hate it. I think it's not giving us an opportunity to hate something, So so if they want to feel that way, they can feel that way. I don't. I think she's magical. You go through waves of generations of different experiences and different points of view and different cultural connections, and they're gonna feel the way they want to feel. But if we take it away, then what are we doing? We're not allowing.
We're robbing ourselves of discourse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why we're all here. And speaking of the Oscars, I always want to ask, what do you remember about that night? You had a beautiful dress on. Your hair was really curly on top of your head.
I think I blacked out.
And I'd forgotten Frances McDormand was also nominated alongside of you.
Yes.
She was so wonderful. That was like peak Frances in that movie. My God, she's just amazing.
She's the coolest. She really is the cool. I remember her walking on a set and she's like, "Why does everybody have trailers?" And I was like, "Why do we have trailers? No one's in the trailers. We all wanted to hang out with each other." And she's like, "These are the worst things that people could put on movie sets." And I was like, "You're not wrong. We should all be hanging out together." And
she's so wise.
Yeah, she's the best.
So I've talked to a lot of people about how it feels to win an Oscar.
Yeah.
How does it feel to not win an Oscar? And you lost to the amazing Marcia Gay Harden for Pollock.
Yes.
Incredible performance. That was a very tough year.
Yes.
But you're always grateful to be there. Everyone says it's a magical night. But how does it feel in that moment when you have maybe told yourself this could happen, and then it doesn't? Is that a grieving moment?
I don't know if it's a weird thing in my brain. I believe that you're destined. I really do believe in things happen exactly how they're supposed to happen. I couldn't even believe I was there, let alone win it. I was so unprepared. In the sense of there's nothing calculated about my life experience. Let me put right. So I go into that experience. Everyone's telling me you're gonna win an Oscar.
They were telling you.
Oh
that.
yeah,
they
you're
always
gonna win an Oscar.
They always say that.
And I was like, I'm not listening to this. This is not real. And I remember when I lost, and you do have that moment. I thought it was gonna be Frances, and then it was over. What really happened in that moment was I had been on this whirlwind at 21 of I couldn't believe the whole Oscar campaign thing. You get there and you're like, oh my God, I'm at the Oscars. And that's all you know as a kid, oh, I just want to be at the Oscars, And then I was there and then it was over and I was exhausted. And I remember my dad's like, well, okay, you lost. And I was like, I lost. And he's like, well, congratulations. Now you can go have your career. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, I want to just go to bed. I was so tired. But then we had the best night and we had so much fun. And I remember going back to the hotel room with my ex-husband and we just ate we drank so much champagne and I just ate I just wanted chocolate covered strawberries, very indulgent. And I remember just sitting there being I had a burger, fries, strawberries.
Well, people haven't eaten in weeks by that point, right? By the time
Yes. I mean, I don't know how not to eat, but that's a whole other, I'm a foodie. But yes, you're right. But at that time, I was like, oh, I'm just so happy to be like.
And did you feel your profile in Hollywood changed after that? Because you always have Oscar-nominated Kate Hudson.
Yeah.
Did you start to see a
I
flurry?
was only 21. I'd never known what my life was. I'd never been in a big movie.
Wow. And did you start to see a lot of new offers coming in for different types of roles? Okay.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. You know, you just like, get ready. You know, it's like I remember my mom, get ready. You know, just and then it was
Your
just
mom
like,
had won an Oscar. So
yeah.
she had
same
also
age,
gone through.
Same age. She was 21 and I was 21 and isn't that cool? Isn't that weird? It's called quantum entanglement. But I was like, that's so cool, you know? And I remember calling, you know, it was cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And I have specific reasons for talking about this movie. Firstly, it's a joy. It's hilarious and it's really fun. But it also established you as a very bankable protagonist, which is a very big deal. And this came out in 2003, and it was produced by the late, great Linda Obst, who we just lost recently, who did so much for women in movies.
Yeah, she did.
And placing women at the center of their own stories and helping to finance movies like this.
Yeah, and a cheerleader for me at 22 years old to actually have a real voice, which is very rare.
In those kind of movies, they could be well-intentioned, but oftentimes those characters are not always in charge of their own destinies in those movies.
Right.
But I want to talk about working with Matthew McConaughey because there's something about chemistry on screen that we know when it works and we know when it doesn't. But I wanted to ask you, what is chemistry with another actor? And can you learn to have it if it's not there naturally? Because you two just have it like from the first moment you're on screen together.
You have to have two people who are really game. Like, we're going to be in love. And if we're not, this movie won't work. It's not going to work. I think it's all of it. It's story, it's, talent. But it's honestly, all of these movies for me with Matthew, it's like writing. But there's something about Matthew and I think it's a similar type of like energy that we have that, like we kind of spark in each other. And you can see it when you meet someone. Like, you know immediately, like, okay, immediately, you're like, all right, we're going to have good chemistry. Okay, fine. We're going to have good chemistry. And you can feel it. Like a relationship, you kind of have to move with each other. You have to understand when, like, they're not it's not a great day. And you know what I mean? You can't.
Like emotional intelligence, working with each other.
Yes. Yeah. And how to get intimate. You know, I want to say to all my partners that I've ever had, I don't get intimate with my co-stars, but the reality is that you have to get intimate with them. Like, you have to find something that is yours together that honestly your partners in real life aren't going to get to experience. That could be hard.
Is that really hard to manage that?
It's innocent. It's not, it's about, it's the art. It's not like, oh, now we're going to fall in love with each other, which sometimes people do. But I think that it becomes like, I always say, like, Matthew feels like, even though it translates as relationship on screen, like love relationship, romance, it feels like he's like someone in my family, you know? But that intimacy, that knowingness, when you have that with somebody, or you can find it with someone when you're working with them, it does translate on screen. And you kind of have to be available to let that in, you know? And I'm a weird hippie, and he's like a weird, sort of. And he is, you know, there is a similarity of character.
I actually see a lot of you, and I've interviewed him a number of times. I can totally see why.
We can get weird. You know what I mean? Like, I get his thing, you know? With Hugh, you know, same thing with Hugh Jackman. I have to say, like, I haven't felt that kind of wonderful connection. And I just had that again with Hugh. I just loved working with him and him being my work husband, you know, on a movie that comes out this Christmas. But
so sometimes it can be a perfect match, and sometimes you have to work at it.
Yeah, then you got to work at it.
Then you got to work at it. Kind of like life in general.
Yeah.
So I just discovered a movie of yours that I hadn't seen, The Skeleton Key.
Yeah.
Which is actually a very underrated.
Did you watch it?
I did.
I love that.
So good.
I love that movie.
2005, written by Aaron Kruger, is one of the great horror writers.
Mm-hmm. My kids love that movie.
It's really good. And you got to co-star alongside Jenna Rollins. What struck you about the way Jenna approached her craft? Because this was a very different movie for her, too. She wasn't sort of like a staple of horror movies. But she probably brought the same thing in that she did to everything. But what was it to you that struck you?
That's like working with a hero. It was like disappearing with somebody. I mean, I don't know everything and every move she made. Now, at the time, she was older, and she had to do a lot of things that were challenging. So I was very protective just to make sure that she felt comfortable. Because it was, and like when you're doing conjuring type stuff, it gets, I mean, as someone who's very witchy, like you gotta like, it's hard.
It's a full body experience.
It really is. Like, and it, the spirits enter the room and you're like, this is intense. And so I wanted her to feel comfortable and we ended up having so much fun. And I have to say, she's one of the great like listeners of all time, right? So you know that everything that you're giving her, she's receiving. And it was hot. It was really hot. I remember her saying that. She's like,
looked very
hot.
warm.
It is hot, yeah. But it was really wonderful. Oh my God, we laughed one time because she had to say Caroline so much. And she's Caroline. And we started
She
laughing.
was loving that accent.
I was like, I hear this in my sleep. And she'd walk in there, Caroline, in the makeup trailer and stuff. I got very lucky to work with some amazing people. Yeah.
Miss her so much.
Yeah.
So now I want to talk about 9.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness, this movie. What a spectacle. Director Rob Marshall, written by Anthony Minghella and Michael Tolkien. Inspired by the stage production, which was inspired by the Fellini film 8 1/2. And I'm just going to list some of your co-stars for those who may not know the company that you kept on this film. Daniel Day-Lewis, Nicole Kidman, Judi Dench, Penelope Cruz, Sophia Loren, Fergie, and Marion Cotillard.
Yeah. That was quite the cast. We also had so much fun.
I mean, how could you not? So,
and Sophia Loren was like down to go out.
Seriously. Where did you film? Were you in Rome?
In London.
Oh, you were in London.
Yeah, we like went out. Like I couldn't even. I just remember seeing her for the first time. I'm like, I can't believe I'm gonna be in a movie with Sophia Loren.
Where did you go out? Like, what did you do on the town?
We went. I wasn't even in London. We went to London. We went out all kinds of places. We had some good dinners and we had some fun.
So David Oyelowo was on this podcast recently, and he spoke about working with Daniel Day-Lewis on Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Bizarre experience because he was in character as Lincoln talking to David as David.
Yeah, I got the best of Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes. So Daniel plays Guido. He's an Italian
Guido
filmmaker.
Contini.
Was he in character the whole time as he often
Yes.
is? Okay. What was that like?
Oh, he was an absolute lover. No, he really was. Guido loves women. And so
he certainly does, as we see in this movie.
So we got I would get like letters from him, telling me how wonderful I was that day, and signed Guido.
Was he sending these to everybody?
It was Guido. I'm sure I wasn't the only one, but it was wonderful, and he's wonderful. But working with him. He still we'll talk about his family and his his kids and his but he's in character.
With the accent, but he's talking about Rebecca Miller, his wife, and his children. Yeah. Whoa, what a trip.
Yeah, it was great. He's great. I was when I was 19 and I was working in Ireland. I went to the only place you could get a salad at the time. It was a real place where I was like, oh my God, they have Sprouts, because at that time, and there wasn't really sort of healthy food in Ireland, but they were coming up, and it was great. And I went to this one place, it was a cute coffee shop, and I'm standing in line. This guy kind of turns around and does this, and he's so cute, older, cute, and I'm like, holy fuck, it's Daniel Day-Lewis. And I remember standing there, at 19, just going I have to say it. I'm not gonna say anything. And then I remember I was in the thing waiting, and he's like, do you want to go ahead? And I was like, no, you go ahead. And then he left, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't say anything, and I wish I said anything. And then who knew that like years later I'd actually be
you
working.
And Guido would be hot and
with
heavy.
Well, I didn't get so lucky. Stephanie didn't get so lucky.
You had a lot of competition.
But I did. That was one of the great moments of my life to be able to like. I danced forever, but I stopped dancing when I was like, early 20s.
You have an amazing number in this film,
and I got to go back to dance
incredible.
and like work with the great. Like, I mean, forget it. It's Rob Marshall and Rob is not like, okay, cut, okay, good. You're looking. Rob is like, get your ass out there. We're doing this 3 times in a row. We've got 4 cameras.
And this is after Chicago.
Yeah,
made this film.
and we've got this big stage, and it's a big number, and it's a lot of dancers, and it was. I mean,
you look like you are in your element.
I'm so happy, and I
very happy.
There was all Swarovski crystals on my. So it weighed like 10 pounds. Wow. I lost like an inch. It was like 3 days of shooting, and it was really fun.
Wow.
It was a blast.
It looked like it.
Yeah.
So speaking of dancing, I'd like to talk about your arc on Glee.
Ooh.
Very different role.
Chandra July.
Yeah, she was kind of a verbally abusive dance teacher.
Awful.
Very awful. And this is, of course, where Leah Michelle's character, she's enrolled in New York Academy of the Dramatic Arts, and this is her dance teacher. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have had the Glee experience, Gwyneth Paltrow, among others. What was challenging to you about the Glee experience that you didn't expect?
Oh, that you go in like one day and they're like, here's the number, here's the song, and we're shooting it. And you're like, what? I thought I was gonna have like at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks to prepare. And
you have a number of song and dance performances within this arc.
Yeah. But it was they were like let's go. So it's just your brain kind of shifts and you're like, all right, I'm gonna just jump into this and do my best. And you record one day, you go to dance rehearsal, and you shoot it all the next day.
And was this character at all inspired by anyone who Ryan Murphy had known, or Brad, or anyone in your world that you felt, ooh, I've worked with somebody like this before?
Yeah, I think anybody who's done dance, like who's done like real like intensive dance, like conservatories or anything, has had that one teacher that's just like a no bullshit. We're gonna get this done, and if you're not up for it, you're out. Get out. We've all been there. I had a ballet teacher like that. And
do you think it's helpful to young people to have that kind of instruction?
I think it's good to have kind of both. I kind of sometimes wish my kids had more teachers like that now. Like I sometimes like, God, I wish there was a teacher with a ruler who would just like, that's what she used to spank my butt when I was kind of not tucked in enough.
Probably can't do that now.
You can't do it. Right. But I didn't not love it. Meaning like it was like if I didn't deliver, then I wasn't good enough to be in that room. But then like there's the other part of me that's like, yeah, but I was like 12, like relax.
Should be a balance.
So, yeah, there should be a balance. But I like a tough coach. But I think there's a way to be tough without being abusive.
I think the business is reconciling that.
Yeah.
Every day. Versions of that.
Right. I think there's a fine line. I think we have to be careful how much we.
Well, also we see the toll it takes on children later when they don't have care on set and as they're learning their craft, for sure. So now I want to talk about another music-centered film called Appropriately Music, which came out in 2021. The filmmaker is Sia, the singer, the amazing Australian singer. I like this movie.
Thank you.
And I actually think your performance is stunning. The movie was somewhat problematic for critics, and I know it didn't perform the way that Sia had hoped. And I have to imagine she had nothing but good intentions with this film.
Oh, yeah. It's a great movie, I think.
And you and the movie. It's a beautiful movie, and you and the movie earned Globe nominations. How did it feel to see the movie get misinterpreted, I think, and to have the message sort of sullied by bad reviews? Because I do think at its core is actually a beautiful story.
I think it'll get rediscovered. I do. Because I'm not so sure that was...
It was a touchy time, too.
Yeah, I think it's okay. But I think that then the next year, I saw some films that were nominated with people who are not neurodivergent, who were playing neurodivergent. And I have to say, I was like, I wonder why...
Sort of a lack of consistency.
I wonder why that was... Yeah, I do wonder. I think that movie is so wonderful. And I love that it explores the inside of this young girl's brain. And there would have been no way to make that movie if we had to cast.
And that's often the conundrum, is that the toll of the performance is often not something that people can
It's a
undertake.
tough conversation. It's actually an important conversation, because you sort of go like, do you not make those movies, or do you make those movies? Like, how do we do that, you know? Because that movie just wouldn't have gotten made. I loved it, and I hope people rediscover that movie, because and the music in that movie is so great.
And the amazing dance numbers, it's really quite beautiful.
It's an explosion of color, and Sia's intention was all love. I mean, it was that the whole movie is about love.
Now tell me about working with her, and I know she opened up in you a new, I guess, hunger to make music of your own.
I think that for me with music, it was always about having the confidence to like open my throat chakra. You know what I mean? It's like how do I not be afraid of this? And Sia was really, I mean, first of all, her writing ability, she is incredibly prolific and profound in her art, you know, and so for her to kind of go, you're a singer, it was like having someone actually give me permission.
Is that the first time you felt that way?
No, I've always felt like a singer. I think it's just about having the courage to like show it, you know, and to feel confident in it. Like my confidence was, it was something I've always struggled with. Like this is what I love more than anything. I've been writing music my whole life, but I always felt like it was just going to be mine. Like I'll just keep it, and then maybe one day, like when I'm dead, like someone will discover all these songs I have in my
Did you show your music to anyone during that time? Like any original songs that you had written?
Yeah, oh yeah. I've shared it with certain people that I love and trust all the time, always, since I was young, you know. There's something about it, but there's something about Sia and singing her songs and really like, because they're real big, belty, and I remember her just saying, this is who you are. And I was like, I think I gotta do this more. I think I have to say yes more. And I thought was a big part of, you know, getting in front of people and actually being able to sing is so vulnerable, you know?
Totally stripped down.
Oh my God, it's and it's where I'm happiest.
So tell me how that encouragement from her led you to contact Linda Perry and then start to work with her on your album.
In COVID, I was like, there was that first moment of lockdown, and it really was for me like, what's happening? Like, are we gonna die? And if we die, then it's like, okay, maybe we're not gonna die. And then once I settled into the quarantine, I really was like, what am I doing on this planet? Like, why am I here? What am I happy with it? If I died tomorrow, am I happy with what I've contributed creatively? I'm good with my kids. I feel good about my kids. They're going to be okay. I know that. I can feel it, and I'm still working on it. But you know, but for me, I was dissatisfied, and
in terms of sort of a legacy or imprint that you had made artistically.
My own personal choices to do the things that I want to be doing and I feel like I should be doing. I have not been 100% fearless in them. And what does that say to my kids? What does that say to why is that, right? And the big thing, just the big glaring thing for me is writing, right? Writing, music, movies, writing. I've been writing. Thing. It's what I love. And singing and performing, right? But like I like putting out my words, and I've been so terrified to do it. And then I was like, okay, that's it. It's done. Can't do it anymore. I don't care if people hate it. I don't care if it's like the end of my career.
It's sort of more painful to keep it so cloistered than to risk it not being liked.
Yeah, because on my deathbed, I would be like, of course, all you care about is your kids, you know, and like the legacy. But I would die with a regret that I didn't just, you know, energetically take all of the things that were inside and put them out into you know. I think it's a really hard thing. It's very vulnerable, but you got to do it. And there's a million reasons why I think I had fear to do it. I think there's a million reasons why other people have the fear to do it. But whatever those personal reasons are, it's like, oh, you just got to like jump off the cliff, you know. And then I did. I jumped off the cliff, and I was surprised that there was a beautiful, warm body of water not that far down. And I was like, oh, I'm in the water. I'm swimming.
Not nearly as scary as you thought.
No, not nearly as scary. Not
So
at all.
what was the process then? Did you start to write on your own and just start creating an album of music, and then you brought Linda in to help you?
No, I've been writing all the time. I'm writing all the time. Music, that's like my happy place. I sit at my piano. I'm sure I have like 16.
So you had a reserve of songs that
tons
just
of
sitting
songs.
there.
Yeah. I did this thing that was like a charity thing, Zoom during COVID. I sang a song for my friend. It was a firework. And he wanted to do sort of like a stripped down version of Firework that he wrote with Katy Perry. I said, yes. Yes, I will do this.
Scary. That's not an easy song to sing.
And Linda was on the Zoom. And then Linda cold called me. And she's like, what the fuck? I didn't know.
So for people who don't know Linda, For Non-Blondes, she's a member of the, and also a Grammy-winning songwriter, absolutely prolific, incredible musician.
Yeah,
and that sounds like her, by the way.
Songwriter.
Yes.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Do you want to come in the studio and sing the song?" I'm like, "Yes, that's what I'm doing." Yes, and so I went and I sang the song she wrote. We sat there for like a couple hours, and then she's like, "Do you write?" And I was like, "Yeah, a lot." She goes, "Do you want to write?" And I was like, "Yep, yes." And that's it. That's what happened. So we started to write. I brought Danny, my partner, in because he's amazing. And then we just sat in a circle and started to write. And we wrote like 26 songs in like 2 weeks. It was very, very, Linda and I write really well. Like we write fast, and it was so fun.
We're so happy you took the plunge, Kate. We're proud of you.
Thank you.
And you've been touring and performing live, and it seems like you're having the time of your
I'm
life.
having so much fun. I have a great band, and I love it. And I've had so much fun. It's such a different muscle, and it's so great. I just love it.
Congratulations. No small feat. And now we come to Running Point, finally.
Yes.
And I've even cut out a bunch of stuff, too. There's just too much to talk about. But Running Point on Netflix.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
A hit upon debuting on the platform. Season 2 on its way. And for those who don't know, created by Mindy Kaling, Ike Barinholtz, Elaine Coe, and David Stesson.
Obsessed with all of those people.
Yes. Very talented crew. And again, for those who don't know, loosely based on the life of Jeannie Buss, who, of course, is the president controlling owner of the Lakers. So you're sort of a fictionalized...
Legend.
The legend, that is Jeannie.
Yeah.
And you're sort of a fictionalized version of Jeannie.
Yeah.
And your name is Isla in the show. So I was interested to find out that you had met Jeannie when you were a kid.
Yeah.
So tell me, when you met her, you were 14, I think?
Yeah, we were a big hockey family, like golden years, Gretzky hockey. I was like 14 when we first started really going to a lot of hockey games. And about 15, 16 years old, probably more like 16, I started kind of trying to sneak into the Forum Club. And Jeannie would be like, "Hey, I'm Jeannie." And I'd be like, "Hi, I'm Kate." She's like, "So you can't go to the bar, but you can sit here." And I was like, oh, and so she kind of like knew that I love sports. And she knew that I loved sports.
And what was her job at the time?
I think she was running the forum. She was like running the forum. And she could tell I love sports. You know, I was there all the time. Anytime my dad we could get tickets, like I was there. So she'd be like, "Do you want to come see the facility? Do you want to check it out?" I'd be like, "Yes," you know, and she'd take me around but really it was during that kind of time, and then up until about 19 years old, I spent a lot of time like just going to tennis sports games, and she'd always be there, and she'd be so great.
I'm like an older sister.
I mean, I wouldn't say we were that close, but she does have some blackmail photos of me that she showed me at the Laker game. I'm like, "Oh, you were there that night?" She's like, "I was there. I have the pictures to prove it." But I had some younger friends or friends with her friends. So we all ended up kind of like hanging out together in Manhattan Beach a lot. And I would like sneak into bars, and that's kind of how I knew Jeannie. But Jeannie was very much a worker bee, you know. And then after that, I didn't see her for years until this show, really.
And then
I saw her at like a Laker game here and there.
Okay. And did she bring this idea to Mindy, or how did this all come? Okay.
So Mindy, 6 years ago, I wasn't involved at all, and Jeannie loves The Office and went to Mindy and was like, "This is a show, and what do you think?" And Mindy's like, "Yes, please," And then she put the perfect people on it who are obsessed with basketball, Ike and Dave, our showrunners and writers, and it's been. Yeah, and then 6 years later, Mindy calls me, and I remember getting the log line, and I got the email from my agents, and it was like, "This is Mindy Kaling, and these are Ike," and I'd known Ike because Ike played my mom's son in Snatched with Amy Schumer. So I was like, Ike, and then Dave Stassen, who actually his wife is my sister-in-law's best friend from high school. It's like very weird, this like weird connection. And I just knew, and then it was like loosely based on Jeannie Buss, and I looked at family dynamic. I was like, oh, I'm going to do the show. I didn't read it. I was like, oh, this is it.
And they were offering the role to you in that email.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah. It was like,
offer.
This is coming to you, and I just knew. And I was like, oh, God, I hope the script is good, because I feel like I should. This is like what I want to be doing.
You had never done television before.
Not
as
like
a lead,
that. No. And I was like, wanted to so much, but I again like how I've always been. It's like I just was like, I don't know if I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. I really was like, if I'm going to do television, I really have to love it, because I know the hours are crazy and it's going to take me away from my kids. And then this came. I was like, ooh, shoots in LA. I was like, oh my God, I get to play it's a comedy, which to me, when I read the script, I was like, I hope this isn't like to pull me in and then it changes, because I feel like sometimes that
becomes a crime drama.
Right,
too.
Yeah. And next thing you know, it's like a PG rated, And so I sat with Mindy and I said, "Is this what you're making?" Because she's like 1,000%. I want a 30-minute elevated family front office comedy. With all this you saw. You know what I mean? Like that's she set out to make that, and she did, and she's the best.
So on that note, what have you learned about storytelling from Mindy, and how do you complement each other?
Love that question, because I feel like I've learned so much from Mindy. It's like I also like am one of those people who's constantly curious and love to learn, but Mindy surprised me every step of the way. First of all, she was pregnant, literally had a baby, like an hour after our whole, like everyone was at a table read for the big thing, and like she was sitting there on the thing and with notes and delivering notes, and then she went and had a baby, and the next day there's notes, and you're like, what? You're a robot, right? You're a robot. She's amazing. She also hires people who she trusts, and she allows them to bring their best. And she knows when to, be like, no, this is what we're doing. And she knows when to say, go, explore, I trust you. And when you have someone like that that's at the helm, you're not only doing your best because you want to do your best always, but you want them to love what you're doing. And you're doing it for them because they're putting so much trust in you. And Mindy gave that every step of the way on this show. And then I think where we really complemented each other, here, like for instance, I know Mindy's been a producer on this forever. She didn't have to make me an executive producer, but she brought me in, and she was like, we're a team, and I was still like careful, because I was like, she knows this world way better than I know this world. No one knows how to do like sitcom, fast-paced comedy like Mindy. She could write that in her sleep. She's so good at it. And where I think I brought something that was really wonderful for us to work with is where we pull away from that, where you have the pace, but you still have a bit of the gravitas, It's like when she would say an elevated 30-minute comedy, not a sitcom, I feel like we became this like little team that really knew what we needed together. And she allowed me and gave me permission to be able to be like that with her, on set in the editing room, and I was just like, God, when you put trust in somebody as a producer, as a creator, you're gonna get the best out of that person.
And before we wrap up, can you tell us anything else about Song Sung Blue, opening Christmas Day with Hugh Jackman? And there is a Neil Diamond theme in this movie, but tell us what it is.
Oh, I can't wait for people to see this movie. It's a biopic about a married couple, who had a Neil Diamond tribute band in Wisconsin in like the late 80s, early 90s.
I used to see one called Super Diamond in Seattle all the time.
Yes.
I think there are a bunch of them. Yeah.
And it's a really beautiful love story. And that's all I'm going to say.
Well, it's Craig Brewer who did Hustle and Flow, so he knows music.
At his best.
He's amazing.
He wrote an amazing script. I'm so happy that they thought of me to do this movie. And I can't wait because I really think that it will touch a lot of people. It's awesome. I'm excited.
I'm singing Sweet Caroline already as I'm sitting here.
I mean, also like that music, you know, we got to sing that music. It was so much fun.
You're in your glory with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, in like sparkly red 80s dresses. You know what I mean? Like, what fun. But it's also really a story about like perseverance and family, and I'm excited.
Something to look forward to. Christmas Day. So, what do you hope listeners of this podcast take away from your Hollywood story?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think if I could leave something to take away, I would say, depending on why they're listening and what they love about Hollywood, is that this is a really magical world with a lot of really incredible people, and we get to tell stories that can have impact, and like to not be afraid to put them out into the world, you know, or write songs to put them out into the world. Like, I think trying to taking risks, being fearless. It's okay if you make mistakes. It's okay if you don't get the part. It's okay if you get the part and you say no. And like, you're gonna have great moments. You're gonna have horrible moments. It's just a roller coaster. But if you really love it, it's like the best, you know. It's all that struggle. It does, at some point, it does have meaning. It is not an industry for people who don't have grit. It is probably one of the most grit creating industries that there are. You know, you gotta be ready. Like, talk about, you know, I mean, it's like, what do you call it? The extra tumble cycle in the dryer. It's just like, I mean, that's what this world, this industry is.
And lastly, what have you learned about yourself in sharing your story today?
That I'm 46 and I've got a lot more work to do, but I've had a really awesome career. That I've worked with some like legends, and that I've had like people believe in me to be a part of those stories with them. It's hard to like pat yourself on the back, like, oh, I've done, you know, because it's weird. But when I hear it back, sometimes I'm like, yeah, man, I worked with all these people. You know, I
are you able to appreciate it?
Oh God, appreciate, okay. Yes. But I think I just can't believe that I've had such a career so young. Like, it started at 19, getting almost famous, and I'm still working. You know, it's like crazy and not normal. And I feel that when I hear it. I'm like, oh God, I feel so lucky, you know. But it didn't come without a lot of heart, a lot of stuff, you know, and a lot of persistence and a lot of hard work.
And sacrifice.
Yeah, I was thinking about that word today. You know, I was like, we do sacrifice. I know it's like, oh, nothing's ever a sacrifice. Like, you know, having children, like I sacrifice, you know, when you say like, oh, you know, you don't ever tell your kids that like you sacrifice so much for them. I sacrifice so much for those kids. I was thinking about that word today. I was like, God, you know, but happily. But it's true. It's a very, very interesting. You sacrifice not doing the things when you have children as a woman in this industry, that you don't do those things because you're hell-bent on being a good mom. And then it's the other way around. These last couple of years, I was thinking about their sacrifice. It's wild, but it's fucking great. It's just the best, so.
Well, you seem to enjoy it, and you seem to be very grateful, and we're so grateful that you came here today to be on the show.
I
Thank you
enjoyed
so
it so much. Thank you.
Happy for you.
My Hollywood Story is a production of Hippolyta Films and Entertainment. It is produced by me, Stacey Wilson Hunt, along with Sonia Slutsky and Wendy Green. Series producers also include Daryl Young and Janet Grayson. Our sound mixer is Luke Tierney, with camera by Ramiro Cantu. My Hollywood Story is edited by Nathaniel Wixon, with original music by Madi Gabriel and Jenny Carr of Moon and Star. Our logo design is by Brad Mitchell, and I'd like to give a special thanks to Champion Turf. My Hollywood Story is sponsored by Mattel Films and recorded at Neue House Hollywood. If you like what you hear, give us a follow, leave a review, and let us know what you think.